God, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come here and bless our decisions tonight, bless our county, our country, our townships, and each one of our commissioners and residents. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
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 Commissioner Marquetti?
Yes, please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Leyland,
Present.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Present.
Commissioner Locke,
Here.
Chair Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Howie,
Present.
Commissioner Barrera,
Present.
Commissioner Marquetti,
Here.
and Commissioner Lee.
Here. All right, next will be public comments, limited to 3 minutes per person. When you're giving your public comment, you can only address us as a board, no individual attacks or personal attacks, and whoever would like to go first, please do so.
I'll go first.
Good evening. Matt Harrington, resident of Penn Township. I had the pleasure of speaking with you about 6 months ago about the issues of marijuana, the marijuana farms in in Penn Township. And you know, as a kid, life was great because you'd go outside in the morning at 8 a.m. and not come back till dark and play outside all day long. The sad part now as an adult, I can't go outside and play. Right? I'm overcome by odor every time I turn around from those marijuana farms. I can't sell my house. Talked to a realtor yesterday. 75% of the value I paid for 18 months ago, at best, I'm getting out of that. 75% in 18 months, a loss. Now we have a new farm that's on the line between Calvin Township and Penn Township. They're going to plant 33,000 plants. 33,000. So it's not just a Penn Township issue now, it's also a county issue. Penn Township's become a destination for marijuana growers because we are unique. We have unlimited grows and unlimited plants. Think about that, unlimited. There is no end in sight. Can you imagine what our community will become? So aside from all that, there are some facts. Number one, the ordinance was adopted illegally. It's indisputable. The process was never followed. Number two, they violate their own Penn Township ordinance every single day. There's a violation. And number three, there's an absolute conflict of interest among the Board of Trustees. Currently, two of the five members are personally benefiting from marijuana farms. So I just have a simple question, it's rhetorical, but is anyone going to hold them accountable? How do we have a government in the United States of America where there's no accountability? Because there's absolutely none right now. The citizens were never included, and Penn Township was put up for sale at the expense of the community. They say it's all about money. They say it's to raise money for a new fire station. So I offered at the last Penn Township meeting to use my professional connections and own time to raise $1.5 million for Penn Township so they can build a fire station, with the caveat that they turn over the ordinance and opt out of marijuana farms. I think it's a generous offer on my part, $1.5 million. They have not accepted that. So I ask that you take into further consideration with your work as county commissioners what role, if any, you are going to play in holding them accountable. Thank you.
Next. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Smith, and I reside on Polk Road. I'm here regarding the LLC, the Chicken Factory Farm. The planned chicken factory farm by Silver Creek Poultry LLC will destroy the lives of those living within 1/2 mile of Bakeman Road. Silver Creek Poultry's plan will destroy the lives of people. Some have said that, they're going to reclaim a gravel sand pit. No use for such a site, but to create a factory, right? Never mind that those within 5 miles of the factory will see their homes, their life savings, worlds where they've spent a lifetime, and in many cases, generations, reduced in value by thousands. I live on property in my mother's family since 1910. My property with its channel frontage and channel view will lose a minimum of 26% of its value. not 88% like those living within 1/2 mile. Still, financial devastation aside, the environmental and health concerns are dire. Our life expectancy now will be reduced. Can you imagine the fear? A cousin of mine lives near Cancer Alley, Louisiana. We're looking at Cancer Alley, Silver Creek. And not to mention, even though by 2024, Michigan's poultry farms will be cage-free, they'll still be crammed into barns, barely able to move, never seeing the light of day. This is not farming, it's agribusiness. These are not farmers in any positive sense of the word. CAFO's factory farms will one day be deemed illegal, but not soon enough. Not only will Silver Creek Poultry's factory destroy the lives of people, their factory will destroy Magician Lake, Silver Creek. It will destroy an entire ecosystem and an entire community. And this factory will commit health and safety violations. They will commit violations. And why? They own hundreds of acres apart from communities, but they see a parcel that's supposedly barren. Imagine the many beautiful uses for this parcel. But of course, everybody loves a factory, right? Everybody wants a riparian, breathtakingly beautiful area polluted. I have a minute or so yet.
You got about 20 seconds.
Okay. If you'll check out the Sierra Club site, they have quite a lot of information regarding CAFOs. We're looking at a version of Flint, a version of Benton Harbor, a version of Cancer Alley,
That's your time.
Louisiana.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, we know each other pretty well.
This is for the recorder and the board, sir.
Thank you, I know, thank you. First, I would like to thank the commissioner, the Board of Commissions here to have us here to have a conversation. The information the young lady or the woman who just came up had communicated is very true. We're also requesting your help and support with the appealing of the decision to approve the poultry industry that is currently being built on Bakeman Road in Dowagiac. The other thing is, the business owner's application has been approved. Our township had no knowledge of that. They have 30 days to appeal that decision or approval that was approved by the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. The problem with that is that we can't appeal something we haven't seen. We are not able to see the application, but we have a team that has FOIA'd the information, so that way we can have access to seeing what we can appeal or what we are able to appeal. But they do have 20 days to provide that information to us, which doesn't give us much time. So that not only doesn't give us much time, but the process that has been done with no transparency to the community which is going to be built. And they don't have to provide that information to anybody because they're working under GAMPs and also the state guidelines that are set up under the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. But the issue is the concentrated animal industry is going to have a huge impact on home values. It's going to put community members at risk, and there are health risks that are going to be associated to that. Pollution of lakes, wells, and not to mention the health of the residents around the area. Also, this woman had discussed the home values are going to decline. But the threat that we see is that this poultry industry or concentrated animal industry is going to potentially expand. 1/4 of the manure that is going to be made or created from this poultry farm is going to be able to be used, or the animal feces that are going to be used for 1/4 of the farmers' land that they're going to be fertilizing. Which means there's 3/4 that they're going to need to have and find ways to create money and also create ways to fertilize the other properties that they have. So the property they own does have the potential to have an increase of this type of environment for our community. So a 45,000 chicken farm that produces enough manure to fertilize 1/4 of the farmers' land, if you multiply that, obviously, you're going to see a large possibility of us having 90,000 or 180,000 chickens in a small concentrated area. This is all being done under the guise of the Farmers Act, and what it does is it threatens everybody's life in this entire community in Cass County.
Your time, sir.
So I want to thank you. We're hoping that you will give us the opportunity to appeal and support us in that process.
Did you tell us who you were, or did you and him just have a conversation?
My name is Dr. Whiteman. I live in Dowagiac at 51701 Leach Road.
Thank you, sir.
Which is within 1/2 mile of the potential of the poultry farm.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight.
You start with
My
your
name is Marcella Wesolowski. I live 4 blocks from this proposed chicken farm. I've lived there for 44 years. Avid in the community, worked all my life here. One thing that really upsets, well, most of our community is we are a resort area. And we have, for the last generations, have accommodated many of the resorters, and we're talking generation after generation in our church. I know for a fact that our parish was not notified that this was going to happen. Our church holds outdoor masses during the summer. We have 2 masses on Sunday, and they accommodate 800 people at 1 mass. So we have 2 masses to accommodate. So the odor from this chicken farm is going to affect our church as well. Now, I'm not talking 1 generation, 2, I'm talking a lifetime of people that have supported our community, and without these people, we'd be lost, to be honest with you. So I'm pleading with you, and I'm asking you to please help us. My husband is just diagnosed with dementia, and he's 76 years old. There's no way we could relocate. The value of our property, we couldn't sell it because you can smell it. I mean, it's right there. So I'm asking you, please help us in appealing this chicken farm. Thank you.
Next up.
My name's Larry Beesbor. I live at 50789 Pleasant Street, directly north of the proposed poultry farm. I've been following this stuff. I was at the last township meeting, and they had a man speak from Michigan State University, and we have recently learned that this is going to be a fertile egg farm. So they're going to have roosters. I sat down and looked all this up, and I computed that for 45,000 hens, they were going to have 3,500 roosters. I was corrected by the man from Michigan State University. He says 4,500, a 9-to-1 ratio. So we're going to have 4,500 roosters. When I first found out that the farm was going in to the gravel pit on Bakeman, my house is within a half mile of the gravel pit. Now, he didn't buy the whole gravel pit. He went a little bit farther south, so I'm just outside of the 5 miles. It used to be a mile, and that changed in 2018 from a mile to a half a mile. And that doesn't quite seem fair to me that, you know, a couple of years ago, they had to be a little bit farther away from residents. Now they get to be closer yet. The gravel pit was useless property. It's not really farmland. It's never been farmland. It's never been tillable. Somebody made a great deal of money getting sand and gravel out of it years ago. And now it's the lowest area in the property. So relatively quick to have contamination get into the groundwater. And we've been told that our property values are gonna take a dive, and they say to check with realtor.com, and I can't find anything on there. But a realtor's not gonna tell us that our property values are gonna go down. They're gonna try to keep them up, because the higher our property values, the more money they make when they sell. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right, we're gonna close public comment. Number 6, additions, deletions to the agenda.
Mr. Chairperson, to the agenda, I would like to add H, fraternization policy, to new business.
Second.
Motion has support. Any discussion?
Yes. I passed out 2 pieces of paper packets for you. The one with the blue emblem on it is actually the policy that comes directly from the courts and the clerk's office. They did create this policy in 2019, and I think it would be good for this policy to also be in our handbook too. I look at this as being proactive. And what this is, it talks about relationships in the workplace, okay? And, you know, people do form relationships, you have camaraderie and things, but sometimes, you know, relationships can get a little awkward or get weird, and it can cause problems. And especially, it could lead to a lawsuit for the county. So this policy that's gonna be put into place, hopefully, is just the guidelines for workplace relationships. I think it's a good, solid policy. Now, the other piece of paper that you did receive were the corrections that were made to this policy to make it fit more of ours. Roseanne did add a piece in here about spreading rumors and gossip. With this policy too, you know, things may be happening in the workplace. There's rumors that start, you know, gossip starts. This should help squelch that, and so that people can concentrate more on their job instead of gossiping and starting rumors about other people.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Enforce this policy with supervisors, management, as well as employees. As far as enforcement, this is for employees or for us, or for everybody, except for the law and courts. Is it in addition to the law and courts? Because they already have one.
This mirrors theirs.
It mirrors theirs.
Correct.
So for enforcement, the only people that can enforce anything with elected officials is those people out there. So how is that gonna be enforced?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's what this
something
is
we
for.
have to, that's what we have to
There
talk
we go.
about, is how is that gonna be enforced?
Yeah, all right, that's all I need.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on. Number 7 is approval of the agenda, Commissioner Lawrence.
I move that we approve the agenda. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 8 is a presentation, A, broadband mapping. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. Give me a quick second here. I need to pull that cable out right there. Thank you. It's going to kind of be in your way there. James apologizes for that, wherever he's at. Anyway, Well, thank you for having me. My name is Chris Scher. I'm with DCS Technology. I am the founder and the CEO for the company, which doesn't mean a whole lot. It just means that my wife and I founded this company 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and I'm still the guy in charge, fortunately. What we want to talk about today, this has been a discussion that's been going on in the county, I believe, for probably a few years. And I want to just start, is this going to start up by itself?
Is your presentation close to the handout?
Yes.
We'll just keep rolling if we've all got the handout.
Well, I'm not going to follow that exactly. Like I say, we've been talking about this for a couple of years. And why isn't this coming up? Okay. There we go. So,
Sorry, just 1 second.
everything went to sleep. We had it working just before everybody got here.
Of course.
There you go.
Oh, it's up here? We got it
Yeah,
here.
and this one turned off on you, James. Yeah. So, as I was starting to say, we've been talking about this for, and the county's been talking about it for a couple of years. I know I first started talking about it with Matthew before he took the position he holds now, in fact. We've been doing this work in other counties around the state. We started out in Washtenaw County about 3.5, 4 years ago, before COVID hit. We realized then that there was a problem with how we reach all the rural areas with broadband. Washtenaw County being the home of University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, you wouldn't think there would have been a big problem there with people not having broadband, living 10 minutes away from Ann Arbor, but it was a major problem. We found more than 8,000 homes when we went out and actually looked ourselves. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that happened, where we're at today, because we've done a lot of this work over the last couple of years. We've provided this in Van Buren County, we've provided this in Berrien County. We're now going to start the process of doing basically the same thing for Cass County. And just to kind of be able to coordinate and take advantage of some of the things that we're doing in the areas around us. So I want to start with, when people ask me, what is it we're focused on? You've all heard that the term "can't see the forest for the trees." What that's saying is that people aren't looking at the details, but they see the big picture. We need to look at the details. So the other term that sometimes I throw out there is, the devil is in the details. When you say that, though, that means people aren't looking at the big pictures. We need to look at the big picture as well. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we get into the details as deep as we need to get into to make sure that we include everybody in the county with this planning that we're going to talk about. But we also have to keep our eye on the big picture to make sure that when we start getting the funding and start doing the actual work, we're getting the most out of it that we can. And that's what we do well. We have come up with some plans that have been very efficient as far as how we spend some of the funds, some of the grant money that we get. And I'm going to make a little bit of an announcement here toward the end of this about some work that's going on right now. But we need to be able to see both the forest and the trees. And so I'm going to start out, I want to talk about the trees just a little bit. This is a picture of a home in Washtenaw County. This is on Old US 12, which is part of, it goes all the way across the state. Everybody knows where Highway 12 is. These folks here have been living there for 25 years. You see the pole that's right next to their driveway. I was standing at the end of the driveway when I took this picture. There's 4 fiber optic cables on that pole. Those people cannot get broadband service. They have been trying for years. They've been asking for it. And the amazing thing is, one of those fibers is for the local school district. The other 3 all serve residential customers within 1 mile of that house. But they can't get it. That's the kind of things that we go out and we look for. This kind of shows an example. The green area is where broadband is available. That pink area right there where the arrow's pointing, that's their home. And as you can see, across the street too is also pink. All of that area, that's a little lighter pink on these monitors back here, but all of that area that's pink is unserviceable still today. We've got a plan in place, it's being built now, but today we haven't quite got to them yet, but we are finally making that happen. The plans I'm going to talk about a little bit are what we've already done in Washtenaw County and Van Buren County and Berrien County, because we've already gotten that far in the process, and we're going to mirror some of that for here. But the one thing I do want to point out that I want to stress, when we go into a new county, every county is different. Every county is unique, has its own set of issues, depending on who the service providers are. So we're not cookie cuttering things here. We're just learning from all the other areas that we've done and redoing it. By the way, just so everyone understands, I've been doing this for 44 years. I started working for a cable company back in the 70s up in Flint, and I've been building these systems ever since. Yeah, I see a couple frowns there because there wasn't very many cable companies back then. This was before any of the Detroit area had cable. In fact, later in the 80s, I was actually out in this area working for construction companies building some of the early cable TV systems for Jones Intercable. So this is kind of coming back home when I come out to Dowagiac and Three Rivers and Paw Paw, and I was doing all those areas back in the early 80s. This is another example of an area where people were just kind of skipped by. It's a little bit hard to see, but you see the arrow on the right is pointing at a parcel. This is a small parcel. There's a house on it. This gentleman has been trying to get broadband for years. You can see the green above his house. That person has cable. You can see the arrows pointing at the cable in the road in front of his house. It's not a matter that it's not there. It's just the right device isn't there, and they can't get the cable company to put the device in the line without asking for $6,000. It goes by his house, and you see the house just to the bottom of it that's also green on his side of the road. There's 2 houses there that are pink. The bottom house is also served by that same cable. Nobody's paying attention to that. We are. That's what we're looking for and when we get this project started. So those are some of the details. I'm going to show you a few more that do relate specifically to Cass County based on the information that we've been able to put together so far. So we're going to look at the forest now. And this might be a little bit hard to see, so kind of follow along with me. Right now, this happens to be Sylvan Township, which is a township in Washtenaw County. There's about 1,500 parcels there, population of about 3,000. The city of Chelsea is in this township, and that's been carved out for this little example. But I want to show you, this is what the FCC was reporting that was completely serviceable. This was in 2000 or 2020. They said that all of that area had adequate broadband service above what they, when you look at broadband, you're looking at data rates. At that point, the FCC said anything above 25 megabit download and 3 megabit upload was adequate. They said that whole area was served. Today, that threshold is 100 megabit down and 20 megabit up. But it really doesn't change what this looks like, because they were also saying that that was also serviceable at that level. We decided to go out and actually look. The red area, that was serviced. All the area that was left, those folks didn't have access to cable. They didn't have access to high-speed internet. They didn't have any of that. So we went to work to do something about it. The part you can't see, really, there's some hatched areas in there, but maybe that's not important. There was a program that came out in 2020 called RDOF, the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. It was put out by the FCC. They awarded millions of dollars to service providers around the country based on a reverse auction. Basically, the service providers were bidding on it, said, I can do that for $5,000 a home. The next one would say, oh, I can do it for $4,000. The next one would say, I can do it for $3,500. So they were reversing to see what best deal they could get. That yellow area that you see, because it was based on that FCC map, notice that purple area is still unserved. All that yellow area was awarded to one of your local companies, Midwest Energy and Communications. So they're pretty close to my home, and they've been an absolute treat to work with. They're one of the best internet service providers, I think, in the state of Michigan right now, and they've been very, very helpful in all the areas that I'm working on. And I'll talk a little bit about what they're doing here in Cass in a few minutes. But you can see, based on that old system, there's still a whole bunch of stuff that's not being served. So we had to find other ways to get to it. Later in 2021, we had the American Rescue Plan Act, and that provided funding for a lot of counties, and they had a lot of flexibility on how they used it. It was mostly intended for infrastructure. Washtenaw County voted, the Board of Commissioners voted to use those funds to help fill in all of the gaps within Washtenaw County. So we started out with 8,000 homes that we found unserved. The RDOF came along and created a plan that reached about 5,000 of those homes, but it was based on the old FCC system and left all kinds of gaps. So we still have, it's about actually 3,400 that we've got in the ARPA program. And we now have a plan that's in progress right now that we've awarded to internet service providers, and they're building it as we speak. Midwest Energy was one of the recipients of those funds. We've also awarded to Comcast, to Charter, a small company called Washtenaw Fiber Properties. And then we've got another RDOF recipient in the area that's not doing any ARPA work, so it's not really under our umbrella, but we're coordinating with them to make sure that we have 100% coverage for every resident in Washtenaw County. The FCC knew they had a problem with this reporting system that was called Form 477, so they changed it and they launched a new map. I want you to look at this map, and you can see you got a pretty good idea of what the FCC was reporting. They come out with this new map called the Broadband Data Collection System, and this is now what a county map looks like. We can't see a thing that way. This is actually showing what the entire county of Van Buren right now. And if we drill into it, zoom into it, and look at just a township, it doesn't look any better. So that has made things a little bit complicated for us trying to get these things solved. You can kind of see there's a little inset in there. That's the size that we have to zoom into before we can actually see any detail as far as this new system. And now, the old system was using census blocks to decide where these served areas were. The problem with that is that there could be 100 homes, 200 homes in a census block. If one of those homes had service, had broadband service, the FCC dubbed that entire census block as being served, and no way to separate it out. So now they've gone to an address point system, and each of those dots that you see on that map there represents an address. So it's more granular, but it's still plagued with a lot of problems because they still have problems with getting accurate data. You can't really see the colors there, but there's green dots and red dots. And I'm going to try to show you kind of what they do. I'm explaining all this because this applies to Cass County. This is the things that we have not looked at in detail in Cass County so that we can create an accurate map of what needs funding to get service to everybody in the county. MEC's done a tremendous job with what they've done. They've got a lot of the county covered, but there's still a lot of gaps, and that's what we got to do is go out and find them and come up with a plan to make sure that we can get them all filled. This is the type of mapping that we do. We map by parcel, so we make sure we include every single parcel that we drive by. The colors on this map, the orange area is a service provider called Mediacom. That's where they're actually serving customers. The pink area is unserved, and then the yellow area, again, Midwest Energy. Anytime you see yellow on my maps, that's Midwest Energy's color, and wherever they're at in the areas that I'm working, I use that same color, so I know exactly where they are. Now, on this map, the yellow hatched area, which is the top part of it, that is where they were awarded RDOF funds, and that is, it may actually be being constructed right now, but that's up in Van Buren County. We had to come up with a plan for all of the orange hatched area, which is, it's not the solid area, it's kind of to the left. That's all an orange crosshatch. Now, when I look at what the FCC system shows me, all the dots, and like I said, it's going to be a little bit difficult, and I don't know if I can point at it. Well, in the orange area, that's mostly green dots. That's fine. In the crosshatch area on the left side, there's a combination of green dots and red dots, and the red dots are where the FCC is reporting that it's unserved. They're correct on that with this map. But there's also a lot of green dots in that orange hatched area, which says that area, that house has broadband service, which means it doesn't qualify for any new service. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't actually have it. We find a lot of over-reported addresses when we're doing our mapping work that we have to identify, and then we have to challenge the FCC. We have to send our data in and show them this parcel is in fact not serviced, so it should qualify for the funding that's available, and we can get that address overturned in the system, and it becomes eligible for funding, which is what we've done in Berrien County. It's what we've done in Van Buren County. We didn't have to do much in Washtenaw County because, one, that system wasn't there yet. We were still using the old system. And two, we went ahead and made sure that we picked up everybody anyway. But with this new funding that's coming available, we have to go through this process to make sure if we identify a home that is not served, it's being reported as being served, we'll have to challenge the FCC and get that overturned. In Berrien County, we have challenged over 1,700 locations. We've got about 400 that are still being reviewed, but all but 2 so far have been conceded by the cable company that, yes, their records are wrong, we are correct. Those areas are now eligible for funding.
Chris, I have a question.
Yes, and thank you, Roseanne. I got a lot of information here. I could talk for an hour and a half, maybe 2.
No, you're not.
So, I am happy to take questions as we go, and I'm also going to shorten this up a lot, but I want to hit some of the highlights here.
5 more minutes.
Oh, very good. Go ahead.
Okay, very quickly, you said the funding that's coming available, is that the BEAD grant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The Robin grant is the one that is starting to come out right now. I will talk briefly about that, but thank you for the 5-minute warning. I didn't realize how much time I actually had. This is Cass County. And this is what the dots look like. All those dark colored dots indicate that the FCC says there's service there. What's kind of hard to see, there's a whole bunch of open dots. There's just circles, and those are all the areas that are being reported as not served. So let me just make sure I hit a couple of areas here. This is the area around, it's in Calvin Township. Is that Paradise Lake?
Yep.
Here we've got a couple of situations where they show that there's cable going to the homes on the right in the bottom circle, but they're open circles, so the FCC says that they're not actually served. We need to validate whether they're served or not, because if they are served, that's taking money away from what we need for other areas. So we have to kind of validate both ways. That top area has some dark colored circles in it. Actually, I've got a better example coming up. This one it shows along the south side of the lake there's a whole bunch of dark colored dots there, but there's no cable there. It says that they're actually serviced by a cable company at gigabit speed. The other data that I've got on that map doesn't support that, so we got to go out there and we got to check that. We're going to actually drive almost every road in this county to check everything, but there are a lot of things like this. This is the reason that we're doing what we're going to do. This is another area, shows some examples of they're either reported and don't look to be actually served, or they're the other way. And if they are reported and they're not, then we will have to challenge them.
2-minute warning.
2-minute warning, thank you. Newburgh Township, so let me jump ahead here. Here's one just south of Dwajek. Here's a whole road here that is completely unserved. It's reported as unserved, but we have fiber in the area, so I'm not clear exactly what's going on there, why it's reported that way. This is the goal of where we're heading. We're going to end up mapping every parcel in the county, and we're going to end up with a map that looks like this, that shows what's served, what's unserved, who the service providers are, and it's going to show us where all the gaps are. This is Van Buren County, and I do want to get ahead here. As we worked through Van Buren County, all that orange, those were the actual gaps that were left behind. After we looked at the RDOF programs, after we looked at the the Reconnect programs, that was what was left. That was what we had to come up with funding for. And with that, I'm going to jump way ahead here. The Robin grant. This was the grant that was just put out there. It was $238 million. We had 158 companies in the state of Michigan that applied for that money. They asked for $1.2 billion. Obviously, can't spread $238 million across that big a request. MEC applied for nearly 10,000 addresses in Berrien County, Van Buren County, 600 and some addresses that they knew about in Cass County, and 100 and some in, these are the numbers here, 176 in St. Joseph County. They've been shortlisted. They're meeting with the MyHigh office next week to go through the details, which means they've been awarded the funding to reach about 10,000 people through the Robin grant that's going to be awarded to them. The next step, this is the last thing, everything that doesn't get awarded to Robin, there's a new round of money coming into the state called BEAD. It's supposed to be about $1.6 billion. Everything that we don't get done with Robin, which is most of the state still, we've got to get ready to get BEAD. Our track record as the organization that did Berrien and Van Buren is nearly 100% right now. So our goal here is to make sure that we know exactly where the money's needed so that we can create the plan, make sure we've got the service providers lined up to do it, get it applied for, and win it for the county. And that should be my 2 minutes.
Chris?
I asked the one question I had. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I told you I had a lot of stuff here.
I kept you partially on track.
No, that's okay. I wasn't sure. I will be back and I'll provide updates. And at that point, it'll be a lot more structured and more specific to exactly what's been going on in the county. But this is just getting us started. So, thank you all.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9 is approval of the April 20th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Commissioner Locke.
I move to approve the April 20th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
Second. Motion has support. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 10 is committee reports. Does any committee chair have a report to give?
Well, the policy committee, and it's, I believe it's in your packet, you'll see what we did. We were very busy, we had an over 2 hour, we had an over 2 hour meeting, so we did accomplish quite a bit.
Is that it?
That's it.
Moving on to number 11, district reports. We'll start with Commissioner Lawrence, District 2.
No report tonight.
District 3, Commissioner Locke.
We had, at Penn Township, we did have a meeting with the owners of these marijuana growing facilities. Unfortunately, I didn't get to stay for the whole thing, so I wasn't sure on how the outcome was, but it was nice to actually meet these people and, I don't know, have somebody to contact if we need to.
Thank you. District 4, Commissioner Jones.
No report.
District 5, Commissioner Howie.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, about the Council of Aging and the truck.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're working on that with the
Right.
auction.
Yeah, they have submitted a bid to purchase one of the trucks. It's a pickup truck. They don't have a pickup truck, and they think it would be fantastic to have a pickup truck. It's bright red. They're all excited about that. But they do need it for hauling certain things. They use the vans for the meals and everything like that, but they have instances where they do need the pickup truck. And they're talking about a pickleball court maybe going in and some trails. So, and they have all kinds, if you look at their website, they're amazing. They have fantastic meals during the day at a reasonable cost, and they have events all the time. It's great.
Thank you. District 6, Commissioner Barrera.
Milton Township is going to be going forward with the project on building a pavilion behind the township. At the previous meeting, they discussed that, put that out for bids, and they finally settled on that one. That same evening, I did go to Howard Township. Howard Township is looking at doing an additional fall cleanup day. They had 5 dumpsters that day. On their original cleanup day, those got filled pretty quickly. I know some of the residents were not very happy that wanted to dispose of some of that, some of their trash. And for the committee, I do sit on the EDC, and we had Mark Van Buren at that meeting, and we also decided that going forward that we were gonna, instead of meet quarterly, we were gonna meet every other month. So I do look forward to having that and welcoming Mark Van Buren to the table.
Thank you. District 7, Commissioner Marquetti.
Yes, this is kind of interesting in that after 2 years, Elmwood Township and Edwardsburg the mural is almost done. We have a new muralist, and he's done a great job. Canadian National's engine is right there. And we're getting a lot of good comments about it. It was on TV last night and a couple weeks ago when he got started, and he's just going great guns. As far as attending, I attended Human Services Coordinating Council, and that was on May 10th, and the presentation was from Woodlands, Justin McCammon and Mindy Nahakian, who talked about the mobile crisis unit that has been in operation since August of 2022. And so many of us that were at the meeting, we had no idea that this crisis unit was in operation. And oh my goodness, what they've done. Most of us at the meeting were not aware. There is a 2-person team per shift. They work 24/7. They operate on call. They're all over the county, and they may show up with first responders. Most of the calls are for ages 7 to 21. The team receives calls also from law enforcement, and aim is to divert people from the ER or the jail. And they recently received a grant for advertising, but really good stuff. That's it.
Thank you. District 8, Commissioner Lee.
Porter Township is they had a pump go down in their septic facility, but they are looking at getting that fixed. I had a Southwestern Michigan Behavioral Health Board meeting. The opioid settlements happened. The state won quite a bit of money from that. It looks like the Cass County is gonna get rewarded like $1.4 million to go towards that specific thing. So, I don't know if anybody, or if you knew much about that, but like, there was a big issue that happened with opioids and opioid abuses, and a court case that occurred where the state ended up winning a bunch of money from like Walmart and CVS and several other companies. So they did put together, the state did put together a board or a group to appropriately manage those funds to make sure that they're being used accordingly. So as I get more information on that, I'll continue to update you guys on it.
I myself have no report, so we'll move on to number 12, the administrator's report.
My report is in the packet. The only thing I guess I'll really touch on, I wanted to highlight the historic courthouse event next week on the 25th from 2 to 6. It'll give everybody a good chance to come in and see some of the renderings on what we're doing. I think there'll be some light refreshments. We're trying to have some fun. I think we're going to have a little questionnaire, a little quiz, and some other stuff in there too. So it'll be a good time. We invite everybody to come out and learn about our plans and get excited for what we're going to do.
Can you repeat the date for that?
Yes, it's the 25th from 2 to 6.
Next Thursday.
Yeah,
Thursday.
next Thursday.
Number 13, finance report.
The report's in the packet. Just want to make note that I put some budget adjustments in there. I mentioned it earlier this year that there was some retirement, some cost from switching from the DB over to the DC, that we didn't have those costs, let alone when we were budgeting last year. We also weren't even switched over then. So making up for those differences that we didn't have when we originally budgeted last year.
Thank you. Number 14 is our veterans report.
Good evening, everybody. For the month of April, we had 146 interactions with veterans last month. Excuse me. We didn't really have an increase because the previous month we had such a deficit because of the people moving out of the county and a few of the veterans that had passed away. Went to training last month. Training was amazing that we had. They had really good speakers that came in this year, which is always great. They always bring new things to the tables that we get to hear firsthand. We had No Soldiers Relief apps, MVA Trust Fund apps. We're getting ready on the 25th of this month to have the VA come to town, and we're hosting that at the VFW. LaGrange Township, I was at LaGrange Township meeting on Monday night. Excuse me. They asked me to express that they are just so excited that they are working with us to help the veterans in the community with their ARPA money. They helped their first veteran this month, actually. So it is just going to make a real difference in this widow's life of the project that we're working on. Does anybody have questions for me?
Thanks.
Oh, thank you. On the 25th at the VFW, it's 10 to 3. And veterans, widows, widowers, come on down. We're going to have a little refreshments too. You can't have a gathering without something to have lunch on.
That information was on the county website, right?
Yeah, it's on the county website. It was sent out to every VFW. The VA itself did advertising for it. We put it on the Veterans Facebook page, so I hand out flyers to everybody that comes in since we started doing this.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else?
Thanks, Corinne.
Thank you.
County partners. Going
Going
once.
So much positivity in our Cass County parks.
See you behind the podium.
Hey, Scott.
I'm Scott Wyman. I'm Director of Parks, so thank you for the opportunity. Like I said, so many positive things happening within our parks. I'm gonna limit it to the
to the top 4 right now. I met with Vanessa from Goats to Go, Willowbrook Farms today. And mark it on your calendars, May 24th. She's bringing her goats out to Lawless Park. And we're going to put them in the disc golf area and see if we can chew up some multiflora rose and briar. And we're partnering with the Friends of the Cass County Parks, and they're gonna help us pay for it. And we'll let them do their thing. It's going to take, she thought, about 5 days or so. We'll evaluate and see how we're going to continue. But we're very excited about that. You're all officially invited this weekend, Michiana Star Party at Dr. Lawless Park, the 13th annual. We partner with the Michiana Astronomical Society. Just a lot of fun things, knock on wood. I think the weather is going to cooperate with us, especially on Saturday night. I think the coolest thing about this Star Party, all day Saturday, there's going to be programming. You'll be able to listen to top-notch astronomers throughout the area. But you also, when it gets dark, the Astronomical Society opens up their telescopes. I mean, there's telescopes that'll be out there that are more than my vehicle, in the thousands of dollars. And they open those up for the public to walk by and look through. So you could have 50, 75, whatever telescopes out there for the public to look at. So it's really unique and something that we're proud of. And again, it's just what we do partnering. Also, Heritage Southwest, specifically the Great Start program, they approached me a few months ago and said, we just received a grant. We just received a grant to do kid-friendly interpretive signs. We'd like to do them at Lawless Park.
Oh, nice.
I said, absolutely. They've been such great supporters of us through the years. They do field trips out there, and I work with Amber of Great Start all the time on different things. And so look for these kid-friendly interpretive signs to be going out to Lawless Park along the paved trail in the next month or so. So that's really exciting. It really is. And then the last thing is building off the momentum of the Land and Water Conservation Fund. We were so blessed to get that grant from the federal government to do improvements at Lawless. I've met with an engineer, 2 engineers, landscape architect, and some top-notch dark sky people. We're looking to put together a Spark grant, the second round for the Spark grant you've heard so much about. And we're looking to do a nature center, combination nature center, observatory, and then improve the accessibility for one of our bathroom facilities. The exciting part about this Spark grant is that it doesn't require a match from you folks. Yes. We will, however, have the $200 and some thousand of the Lombardi bequest that can go specifically to that nature center. I would say this, that the first round, I'll give you some statistics. The first round, there were 462 applicants for this Spark grant, and only 21 were approved. That's why, congratulations to Emily and her team from the Village of Cass for getting that Spark grant here for the extension of their beach. That was quite an accomplishment. So it's quite competitive, but we have 2 things that a lot of them won't have. We're an international dark sky park, which makes all the difference. There's only 4 in the state of Michigan. And then we do have that $200 and some thousand that can be counted as a donation. And that's a big deal. They'll look at that and say, wow, somebody thought enough of this project to donate $200 and some thousand. So we're hoping those 2 components help us to be competitive. So be looking for requests to approve a resolution in the next meeting or so. Just a simple resolution that says, hey, I believe in this Spark grant and we're behind you 100%. So we're trying to get that wording around and stuff, but be looking for that. But hope to see you this weekend, and come out and check the goats out. I think that's going to be pretty cool. So thank you for the time.
Mr. Chairman,
Any question? I'm sorry.
Yeah. How much are you asking for in the Spark grant?
We don't have the exact amount, but it'll be less than $1 million. You can only add up to $1 million. It'll be, I'm sure it'll be in the 900,000s or so. We don't know exactly, and to be honest with you, reviewing resolutions from other folks who needed to do resolutions, you don't have to put that exact amount in there. But we will, however, have to put the amount that we're gonna add to it with the Bombardi money, so. But yeah, but it's no more than it won't be any more than $1 million, because that's the cap for that particular grant, so. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for the time, I appreciate it.
Any other county partners? Moving on to elected officials.
Oh, here she is.
Hi. I'm Hope Anderson, I'm the county treasurer. Today I'd like to give you an update regarding the surplus funds from tax sale proceeds that for foreclosures from the years 2013 to 2020. In December of 2022, the Cass County Board of Commissioners unanimously passed a resolution to enter into a long-awaited settlement agreement. This agreement was reached after years of careful consideration and negotiation, and it was also adopted by all the counties in the Western District. Its primary purpose is to prevent any future legal disputes or controversies. The settlement agreement is highly beneficial and serves the best interests of the citizens of Cass County as it resolves the ongoing litigation. I'm pleased to announce today that the postcards have been mailed. So the postcards have been mailed to all individuals who either owned, inherited, or held an interest in properties that were foreclosed upon and subsequently sold between January 1st of 2013 and December 31st of 2020. If you fall into this category, you are automatically considered a member of this class. The process for filing the claim, it's straightforward. It can be found at the following website. You can all look it up. It's www.taxforeclosuresettlement.com. You might want to take a peek so you kind of see what the homeowners in the county are receiving. They're also receiving the postcard that kind of looks like this. Everyone's probably received a class action settlement postcard in the past, so it's very, very similar. For those who may not know, the county treasurers in the state never had a pathway to return proceeds prior to the General Property Tax Act changes in 2021. So this remedies that. The courts found that it was a takings, a Fifth Amendment takings, unlawful to take private property for public use unless the government provides just compensation. And that is what we're remedying with this. Should anyone have any questions, or if you have, talk to homeowners, sometimes people get mailings that look fraudulent. And I did get one today. He called and he said, "Is this real, Hope?" Yes, it is real. He actually sent it to me. That's why I have a copy of it. But I'd be happy to talk to anyone and confirm that it is a real claim process. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to show my appreciation for those that came out to the memorial service yesterday. I think it was one of our best ones. Shane Britton's widow spoke, and it was nice to see her and the family, and they actually got to have their picture taken with their namesake, our bloodhound Britton, which is named after Deputy Britton, who was killed in the line of duty. I appreciate everybody who came out and enjoyed, and Calvary Bible Church for helping out so much with that. A few things I'd like to announce. About 18 weeks ago, I had a couple gentlemen in here to introduce you to them that were going to the police academy. And they graduated last Friday.
Nice.
And they actually both started yesterday. And so they're out already patrolling the streets. And I got some really good news. We applied for a grant to get reimbursed for the money for their training, which that was over $30,000 each to send them to the academy and pay their wages and everything. And we got $21,000 each back in this grant. We were expecting much less. So it was a pleasant surprise to see we got that money back. So that'll be coming back to the general fund. Couple other things. The drug enforcement team has done 3 search warrants in the past month. One in Marcellus Township, one in Wayne Township, and one on Pokagon Street, just outside of the city of Dowagiac in Pokagon Township. All were meth-related and stolen property recovered and arrests made. That being said, I'm still looking for some people. If you know of anybody looking for a job for a police officer, corrections officer, or even a dispatcher, we got open positions. Dispatcher, we have one position. We thought we had that position filled, and the person decided not to join us, so we still have that position available as
They
well.
said I can't.
I'm sorry?
They said I can't join you. I'm in.
The math, that's what it is. I think that's it. Any questions? Oh, by the way, the boat is in service. The boat that you approved arrived last Saturday, and it was striped out yesterday. Looks pretty cool, so that'll be in service as well, and we got to get it broke in and trained on it and such. So I thought that was good news.
Got a question, Sheriff. You said that $21,000 per deputy was going back into the general fund. Our general fund or your general
It would
fund?
go to your general fund because that's where the money came from.
That's where it came from. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, the 24,000 I've been updated. It was 21,000, there was like 3,000 on the side. But that was good news.
That is. Thanks, sir.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Monica, you have anything?
Thank you,
All right, moving on, number 17, unfinished business. I do not believe we have any. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Nope. Number 18, new business, item A is Village Marcellus annexation petition.
Is anybody from Marcellus here tonight? I could talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
So the village has been working with the township for, I think, a little over a year now, looking at some property just outside the village to annex in. They had actually met with a couple county officials during this process as well, and we had advocated that the township and the village work together to try to make sure that both entities were on the same page. They came to us about 2 weeks ago saying that they had worked together to find an arrangement that both were in agreement with. There was one, I think, parcel that they had to work out, I think it's a EA 457 agreement to how they would manage that, like basically township rules apply in certain instances and then
Yeah,
if
it's
things change.
a marijuana farm, isn't it?
Yeah. So I
Until
think
it's
so.
no longer a marijuana
Township
farm,
ordinance applies until that happens.
then it
and
goes back to village.
Exactly. So as part of that process, the village has to petition the county, and then there's a public hearing that's held on that annexation petition. And then following that public hearing, there could be an order of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Order approving the annexation from the Board of Commissioners if that is the case. So this would be just to approve the public hearing for that proposed annexation and to have the order of annexation under consideration for the next meeting.
Did anybody from the village know we were doing this today or talking about it?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they're kind of that.
Okay, so we will actually vote on the annexation at the,
That will be, yeah, this is just to move it. I know that she will, Jacqueline from the village will be here for that meeting on the 1st.
I had some questions, so
I thought they were gonna be here tonight too, so I apologize about that. I do know that we did include a letter there for the township as well that showed that they had a public hearing on it and signed off on it as well. So both the village and the township have approved for that to go forward.
Any other discussion? Are we in agreement to push it forward, or do we want to wait and hold it back until we can meet with somebody from the village?
The only thing I would say is I know they've been running an ad in the paper contingent upon that public hearing for the 1st. Of course, we told them we had to go through this process first, but I know they've been working towards that, so it would be a potential issue for them.
So we need to approve this.
The public hearing, sure, I mean, I think you could potentially wait on the decision if you wanted to do that, but I think the best outcome would be to at least hold the public hearing at the meeting on the 1st.
So they're setting our timeline?
No, I mean, I think it's just working with them, and with the process. They usually will coordinate on the part of the local municipality for that notice, but the actual, hearing is held at the county level. But they have notice requirements for the village and for the township they have to follow for that too. It's kind of a complicated process. Yeah.
What do you guys want to do?
I say move forward.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
All right, we'll move forward to the next agenda.
Yep.
Can we request that somebody be here for that,
Yes,
please?
I will communicate that.
Well, it's a public hearing, so.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah, better.
All right, moving forward, next item is item B, Silver Creek Poultry Farm.
All right, well, that was me. I put that forward because it was requested by many, many citizens, even though that's not my district. So I will kick the conversation off. I want to point out what Dr. Whiteman said earlier, and that's one of my questions is, he said that you can't appeal yet because they don't have all the information. And that's the township appealing. So if they can't appeal everything and they're just going piece by piece, then how can we? You know, so that's a question of mine. Then in the recent past, me being chair of certain controversial topics during our commissioner meetings, I was asked by the public, am I just going to pick and choose what state laws or what laws or even constitutional laws are in question that we as a county are gonna follow? And if this is a state law and the guy's within regulation of the state law, I dropped the last one that was controversial, so shouldn't I personally stay consistent with that? You know, so that's a question in mind. Another question is Mr. Harrington is here for Penn Township about the marijuana farms, and I called him and I apologized to him saying why, or telling him that, you know, man, I messed up and I've got this on our agenda tonight. I should have did the same thing for him, you know, but if I did, then that opens up a door for other townships and other to come here for the same thing. So with this poultry farm, if we don't do it, we're sending a message. If we do appeal, we're sending a message. And if we do, then we're going to have to, is it a ripple effect? You know, from what the public said, you know, this is gonna affect eventually or potentially the whole county and all of our residents. You know, with smells, environmental, health hazards, potentially, we don't know. The farm or the company said that it wouldn't stink, it wouldn't create any hazards. And I'm assuming, I don't know, I haven't talked to the EPA, they had to have gotten EPA approval. You know, are we to override EPA or are we to override the state? We can't override the township because the township has more authority than we do. Just like we've experienced with our ordinances that we tried to pass. And if we pass an ordinance, they can opt out. So if we do go through with an appeal, it's gonna cost our county money. And I remember telling everybody that that's our job as county commissioners is to be fiscally responsible. So it's gonna cost us county money to fight a township battle that we won't win. So we're gonna spend money just for a stance. I feel for the citizens. I don't want that best by my house either, you know? I'd be just as upset as them, but for the 55,000 residents that we have here, what do we do? You know, me alone, I'm only one vote. And I've talked to several people, probably some out in the audience now, and watching me on TV, thanks a lot. So, I'm only one vote, so I'd like to ask Matt, what did our county attorney have to say? Because I know we consulted our county attorney, and what was his opinion on what we should do?
Yeah, I mean, Carl said that MDR does permit an appeal from a local government within a half mile of the proposed site. So if the site is within a half mile of the county could appeal. Whether the county considers that, in terms of the time and the resources necessary and the particular circumstances as a viable option is really up for debate in terms of what that would work. I think the one thing to think about here is this, with the right to farm, it's a state process. So the way that you can appeal essentially is under those generally accepted agricultural management practices. You have to show where one of those would be an issue, an appeal based on that.
You have to show how the state didn't do their job approving.
Yes, that's really the key. And then the other question, I guess, is on the surface is really, when looking at the township, is generally a lot of your local planning and zoning issues are kept at the local level. Under state law, that's normally local issues or local control over planning and zoning. So depending on the decision that Silver Creek makes, if they elect not to appeal, is that appropriate in the part of the county to then move forward with that if they choose not to?
And with that start of, I don't want to say a war between the county and the township, but what message are we sending to our township that's part of our county?
In that regard, it would probably make more sense if Silver Creek was pursuing an appeal to potentially sign on along with that, or something along those lines, to make sure that you're kind of supporting your local townships. But otherwise, it's a difficult premise.
Because I would like to support our township, but I would also like to support our residents because I love my county. And I just said a couple of weeks ago that I love all of our residents. So I raised chickens, the meat chickens before, and I free range mine. I've got egg chickens. I used to raise the meat ones, but that was cruel and inhumane. And you all that know me know my politics and my personal stance on things like that. But I stopped raising the chickens because that was terrible. I felt sorry for them poor little birds. So what about PETA? We're not talking to the audience, but I would think PETA would have been all over that, because there's a farm right down the road from my house that they had less than 100 sheep, and there were people protesting and coming after them for that. Where's PETA at for that? Because that is cruel, the way they're saying them chickens can barely move. I've seen what it does. That's why I grow my own meat, because I'm afraid of bird factories and animal factories and feedlots. It's terrible. Where is PETA? That's all I have. And my personal vote, I would like to bring it to me personally, I would like to bring it to our next meeting, but I will follow what Silver Creek Township and the neighboring township would do, so we would all be on the same page, pending all the information. Because according to Dr. Whiteman, we don't have all of the information. I can't make an educated decision or the best decision personally or professionally without all of the facts. That'd be irresponsible. So by then, hopefully we'd have more facts. That's just me.
I'm just gonna reiterate what Jeremiah said about potentially ruining relationships with one of our local townships that we've got a good working relationship with. I emailed everybody today and told anybody if they had any more questions, wanted more information on this, to get a hold of me, and a few people reached out. I've been at all the meetings in the recent past at Silver Creek Township. I've spoke with the manager of the Right to Farm Act numerous times, had about an hour and a half long conversation with him a couple weekends ago at the Michigan Lakes and Stream Conference. And he laid out how the GAMPs work. A specific person gets one of the specific GAMPs, and they go through it, and they take the application and they cross T's and dot I's to make sure everything is lined up. And then at the end of the process, they all sit around a table like this, and they go to each person at the table and say, do you have any reasons why this shouldn't go? Do you have any reasons? And nobody had any reasons, so then they approved. And specifically with filing the appeal, you can't just file your appeal and say, I don't like this, it's gonna stink. You have to pick one of the GAMPs and tell the state, prove to the state why they did it incorrectly by approving it, which is gonna cost somebody time and money.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the other chicken or poultry factory or farm, that's in Penn Township? Just east of or west of Vandalia, Guards Prairie. And I've been past there several times. It's down that dirt road, and they have 5 gigantic barns there, and I think they have 1 million birds per barn. I've never smelled anything. And this is the first I've heard from Silver Creek, but I don't remember in my time as a commissioner. That was built in our time as commissioners, us three, wasn't it? Or was that before?
I don't
No
remember.
idea.
I don't
Yeah,
remember.
It's been there a while.
It's been there a while?
Yeah, because I don't
Quite a while.
remember it.
Did
Now,
did
when they spread the
complain?
manure,
Mm-hmm. It stinks.
oh my gosh.
On Thanksgiving Day, 2 years ago, the farmer that owns and he don't live in our county, the farmer that owns the property around me sprayed chicken manure. Almost went to jail that day. That stuff stinks. So people in the community, I get it. I understand. I wouldn't want that in my area either. This is a difficult.
I want to be careful going after our farmers
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
We are
We're a
a
farming
zoned ag,
community.
we're a farming community. They do provide a lot of food. Regulations do need to be there, of course, but I would be more
And
interested in, go ahead.
The smell does go away in a few days.
Just not on Thanksgiving Day. Don't do it then.
We've got a picture of a pig on our county seal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd like to do it with more information. I don't want to cut you off.
I've actually, I actually work with a farmer that has chicken facilities similar to this. And they're very, very well maintained. They're kept clean. Again, you gotta be careful. This facility, there's like 2 houses within a mile of it, and that's it. There's not much at all. It's surrounded by ag, but just to go in, you gotta have your feet cleaned in a specialized bath so you don't spread any diseases, even from barn to barn. You can't.
Yeah.
You have to be completely cleaned, and they're well-maintained facilities. Very, very good people run those barns, I guess I would just like to hear how Silver Creek handles it first before we make any.
And get
movements on
more
it.
information.
Anybody else?
Do we know, is the purpose for eggs or is it for meat?
It was for breeding with what
Yeah,
they.
it's for
Oh, it's
birds.
for
This is the
breeding?
breeding
Oh,
for the
okay.
4,500 roosters.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I remember that now.
Thousand.
Sam?
Just want to make sure that legally, what can we do as a Board of Commissioners regarding the subject if they're filing applications with the state?
We're just taking a stance, that's it.
I'm not an attorney, I can't answer that, but
And-
I don't think much against the state.
And the township and the state have more authority than we do. We would just be taking a stance on, and supporting the residents, but there's nothing actually we can do.
Just want to be clear about that.
And I think the way it reads is the request to appeal must identify with specificity the section of requirement in the state selection GAMS that the requester believes MDARD failed to or improperly applied. The request must include all relevant facts, data, analysis, and supporting documentation for the appellant's position. A request that does not identify with specificity the manner in which MDARD failed to improperly address the site selection or does not provide supporting documentation will be denied. So it's not just enough to say, we don't agree with this. You have to have supporting
Substantiate
And the only
documentation.
documentation we received was the GAMS approval, correct?
No, what I forwarded you was from MDARD, and it was sent to the farmer, to the township, and to my office, and it's posted publicly in my office stating MDARD recommends we do not commence with construction at this point because more information is needed.
Right, so it's just the site approval. So they have other steps to continue on through before a whole lot more happens.
Mm-hmm.
What do we want to do?
Well, I agree with RJ. We don't know all the facts yet. What requirements? I would imagine that MDARD has some very stringent requirements if you're going to do a facility like that. As well as the township can also have some very stringent requirements as well because it's built in their township. So on the buildings, the odor, everything like that.
So we don't table it because that kills it, but we can come back and revisit it once we get more information.
That's a good idea. Let's revisit it.
And
once
then we
get more.
revisit it once we get so we can make, for the community, and to be responsible as citizens and commissioners, that way we can make a better decision.
I agree with that.
So do we want
Yeah.
to visit it,
I agree with
do we
that.
want to visit it under old business at our next meeting?
At
The
the,
next cow.
at the next cow.
It's not an actual motion, this is just discussion.
Yeah.
It's just discussion.
And we might not know by the time we have the next meeting.
Well, the next cow, the appeal process, when they'll be done.
Yeah, oh, okay.
I believe the deadline is June 8th.
So we do it for June 1st, bring it back June 1st for our next business meeting under old business.
I
And
think we need to discuss more on it.
now, or
No,
then?
in the next cow meeting, don't you think?
Well, by then it's too late.
And the next, by the time we have the next cow, the appeal process, the appeal window's closed.
And then we really can't do nothing.
Do you want to just keep people updated if something happens to the point where we need to host potentially a special meeting, we can do that if we need
Right.
to?
Oh, no, it doesn't matter where you guys.
And I'm sure the public's gonna let us know, because we field a lot of calls. They will let us know if anything changes, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm in favor of whatever the township does, so everybody is clear on that.
So, June 1st or no? For old business and pending, more information. If not, then we act accordingly. That's the plan?
June 1st under old business.
That's the plan. Sorry, community, that we couldn't do more,
Only to
but,
continue discussing.
yeah.
It's a discussion item under old business, unfinished business. on
Yes.
Yes,
June
ma'am.
1st.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Item C is fiscal year 24 community corrections application and plan. We'll hold off for a minute, so whoever would like to leave can do so.
The rest of our meeting isn't worthy of news? Guess not.
Matt, do you have anybody that's gonna specifically be talking about item C? Pretty extensive packet.
Boy, it was.
If you like, I can comment.
Feel free.
What? Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see it was community
I didn't
correction.
want to automatically shine the spotlight on you if you didn't want to do it.
No, I'm fine. I just,
I
sorry, I had
don't have
a,
anybody specifically, but I thought they were short quick.
I just had a few things going on there. But anyway, Community Corrections Grant, it's an annual grant renewal that funds, helps fund a position that helps with jail monitoring, community programs for inmates while they're in jail, as well as when they get out of jail. It's a position that's funded, supplemented by the county, as well as part of this grant process. We have to submit this grant in May of every year to get the funding. But it's a position that is very valued in our office.
Anybody have any questions for him?
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment. It just shows you how extensive some of the grants are. And I wonder how long it took Krista to get this completed. I
she
mean,
start-
it's exceptionally well done.
She starts it, and well, it's a continual process, but she really starts working on it in February to get the numbers and
I
everything
can
put
s-
together.
Yeah, yeah, nice job.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I will
Sharon.
pass it on.
Anybody have any comments? Everybody in accordance, we move to the next meeting?
Yep.
All right. Item D, L 4029 tax rate request.
The L 4029 is our annual report that we have approval for that tells us what we're allowed to charge on the summer and winter tax bills for the county entities. This includes county operating, council on aging, drug enforcement, medical care facility, and E911. Your packet shows the taxable calculations along with the consumer price index. And those calculations, we do not have a millage rollback this year because of the high consumer price index, but we do need to hold a truth in taxation meeting. That needs to be done June 1st so that we can pass the L 4029 to begin processing summer taxes. The summer taxes charge the county allocating. So that needs to be taken care of June 1st so that we can begin processing the bills to get them out to the townships for mailing before July 1st. I've included in your packet a sample of the recommended millages, and we will be holding a truth in taxation meeting June 1st where the public has an opportunity to come in and ask any questions. We have to have a truth in taxation meeting anytime we collect more revenue than we did the previous year. Our tax rates did not go up, but our taxable value went up. So taxable value times the tax rate is the amount of revenue we get. Since the taxable values went up this year, we're by calculation going to get more revenue. So we have to give the public an opportunity to ask questions or respond to that increase.
And that increase is overall, not individual.
It's the overall taxable value that I
Overall.
showed you at the equalization, yes.
Okay.
And because that taxable value went up, the multiplying it times the levies that did not change gives us more revenue.
Okay.
Any questions?
Everybody satisfied?
Yep.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
There's no other discussion, we'll push that to the next meeting. Item E, broadband mapping agreement.
So Chris was here obviously to talk about, what their process is a bit and give you a little bit of an overview. And I know there's a few of us that have talked with Chris a couple different times. As part of the May 4th regular meeting, the Board of Commissioners had approved the MDARD fund grant agreement for the broadband mapping project. As outlined in that grant agreement, it was specified the county would work with DCS Technology Design to carry out that work. But there's a separate agreement here with DCS that was updated and incorporated as part of that grant application. But we normally will approve those separately. We wanted you guys, everybody, to have a chance to hear from Chris and review the proposal from him directly. So that was kind of the idea with this. And just to kind of clarify is that the way the grant was written, we really don't have any flexibility to choose a different provider. That was all contemplated as part of the grant application, and there really isn't anyone else that does what Chris does.
Yeah.
So this really is a pretty straightforward process, but wanted everybody to get a chance to review it and approve this in addition to the grant application as well.
And I know that Van Buren County and Darien are very, very pleased with the work
They're
he
both
did.
ecstatic with their
Yeah.
maps.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Anybody have any other questions or discussion? Everybody agree to move it to the next meeting? All righty. Item F is resolution recognizing June as reunification month.
I know Carol wasn't able to be here, but June is reunification month for the courts. There's a resolution there recognizing that. I know that reunification month has been observed since 2010 to celebrate families and communities coming together to the hard work to reunite a family, and I think it makes a lot of sense to make sure we have this resolution in place to honor that here in Cass County as well.
Yep.
they usually have reunification picnics, and those are really, really something
Yeah, I
to
think they
attend.
do have a reunification day also.
Yeah.
I don't remember when
Yeah.
that is, but I'll let everybody know when we hear it.
Any questions, comments, discussion? Everybody's good with going to the first?
Yep.
Item G is fiscal year 23 budget amendments.
You can see we have a list of amendments there. I know this was kind of alluded to during the finance report. There's a few different items here. Primarily, one of the bigger drivers is the legacy debt expense from the DV to DC transition. I think in the adjustments report there kind of gives a good summary of all of the different items, and I don't know if anybody has any specific questions on anything. Jen and I would be happy to answer questions if there are any. One thing I would mention is that we did try to reduce the impact to the fund balance. So we were able to actually identify that interest rates have been actually really good.
Incredible.
Incredible, and I think, you know, we obviously would give a lot of credit to Treasurer Anderson for, you know, finding a lot of good opportunities for the county to be able to earn interest, and so we were able to raise that up quite a bit. Previous years, interest has been really minimal. This year's been really good, so we were able to actually increase revenues from interest income as well as increases to the marijuana tax proceeds from the revenue sharing that comes from that as well. So that kind of took down some of that fund balance allocation by quite a decent margin.
We can move that?
So that one's pretty self-explanatory. We can talk about it if we want, but it's gotta go to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So too.
Yep. All right, item H, fraternization policy.
I'd like to know what prompted this. You said it was proactive.
To be very proactive,
Was there any prompting other than being proactive?
just proactive,
Okay.
you know.
Not a situation you're aware of?
You know, there's always gossip, some whispering, but I think this is something that is proactive. And when we look at our handbook, I'm sure there's other policies that we should be more proactive on. And you did ask about, you know, discipline as far as that goes. That is a discussion we do need to have. One option that we do have, because of being commissioners, we think, what would we do if there was a lawsuit? What we could do is drop legal paperwork where they could state, yes, we agree to this, we're seeing each other, but we will hold the county harmless for any damages that may occur. Now, that is an option that,
Saying if we, like me and you, were hooking up or something, what do you mean we?
we would go to HR,
She's speaking about employees that would be seeing each other.
correct.
Oh, not, because you said commissioners, but then you
Well, yeah.
moved on to,
But you've told me before that commissioners are treated slightly different.
well, yeah, because we can't be, our evaluators are out there in those seats.
Correct. That is
Nobody,
correct.
nobody else.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
meant by that.
The only remedy for this is to drop that contract. The whole purpose is to protect the county,
Mhm.
okay?
And another question would be, it went to the policy committee. And how many people do you all have on, how many voting members do you have on that policy committee? Four. Was it moved and voted to be brought here?
No.
No.
The last sentence in the meeting minutes from May 11th read, following discussion, a new draft policy will be presented at the June policy committee based on adopting current court fraternization policy.
Okay. That's all I have.
My big thing is if we're gonna have a standing committee, name the policy committee, we need to handle these things and get these things figured out, finalized, fine-tuned, vetted in that policy committee, and then bring them to the board.
To discuss some with the corrections on it.
If we got anything else?
So for me, the important thing is just to have a process in place, and so I just wanna make sure that we're outlining the process on how things flow through the proper channels and end up on our meetings, and then move on to the meeting where we vote on it. So in this case, this did go before the policy committee, where there are 4 voting members, but it was not an item that was voted on.
According to the minutes, it was not voted on.
No, it wasn't.
So to do this properly, it would be voted on and then end up.
It would be voted on and recommended, whatever official movement, by a majority of that committee to come forward.
I made the statement at the meeting, though, that I would like to see this voted on at the next BOC. And then after that, nothing happened. But I did make that statement.
So so going.
It's here now, so we can do whatever we want with it.
All right.
But finish your question, Sam.
I just want to make sure, just we have an outline that we're following. Does it still then need to be voted on by the policy committee?
It's here now, so we decide, because we've already accepted it as it is, so we would then have to move forward with it either way, right?
That would be my consensus.
Yeah.
But the rules say if we hadn't have brought it the way we did, then it wouldn't be here now. That's what our rules are. But you can still bring it without the committee because we're commissioners and nobody can restrict you from bringing anything to the Board of Commissioners. We cannot restrict that. Don't get it twisted. Cannot restrict that.
It's true,
But
that's right.
why do we have a committee if we're gonna, but that's another one of them, you know, dozen in one hand, 12 in the other, or whatever.
Is there a reason it wasn't voted on at the committee?
No, it was not.
No,
Oh,
it
Sounds like
wasn't.
they were gonna revise something.
Yeah, we were gonna make
Talk
some
about it at the next
changes
meeting.
and then bring it back.
So,
Bring
it is
back
what
to
it
the
is.
policy.
And the policy committee meets every month.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we do.
And if a commissioner feels passionate enough, as Mary does, then we do what we just did now, and it comes before us, and we make a decision. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way, that's our constitutional republic and our
I
rights.
guess we have an option, we could refer it back, if that was preferred too, right? So we could just take it and say we do believe that it needs to be referred back. We don't necessarily have to, but again, I would follow your lead on that.
Maybe to discuss the added piece
Mhm.
of the
And
agreement.
address what Sam say, follow the flow chart.
Mhm.
You know, that way,
Okay.
because if we bend the rules on one thing,
They're all getting done.
Okay.
everything else we do is invalid, everything.
But I do agree with Sam.
Yeah.
We do need more transparency as far as a flow chart
Yeah.
and the procedure for this, because this whole thing for me was very confusing, quagmire, murky. So I would
A little
appreciate
traumatic.
maybe a flow chart.
We've both been there.
I told her that.
It's not, it's,
We all
Sure.
have.
but
Yeah.
it's not good. We do need everybody on the same page, doing the
Yes.
same
Yeah.
thing, and hold to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think this is-
otherwise,
yeah, it
you know, this sort of situation could be avoided.
So
It's a great discussion point for a workshop.
that's what I was just
Yes.
gonna say. So Matt, could you, we need to refer this back to the committee. Is everybody in agreement
Yeah,
with
we have
that?
to, we have to all agree on that.
So we all in agreement on that. So next thing, me as the chair of the board, not this board, but the chair of the board, Matt, make sure that flow chart is on our workshop discussion, please, sir. So we can do that for every one of our committees, for the consistency. I think that's what the consistency. We have to be consistent, and we have to follow our own rules. Or the news is gonna be back in here.
So, Mr. Chairman, on a couple of technical issues, if I may, do you care? I do believe, unfortunately, that because we don't have an issue on our agenda where we hold discussion, that Silver Creek Poultry Farm would have to be pushed forward as a motion of some kind, even to be considered as unfinished business. Because right now, like, it would just be a topic.
You should have brought this up while they were all still sitting here.
I had to think about it.
I'm sure.
It's a lot of process.
It is a lot of
And the
process.
same would be
Yeah.
with this fraternization policy, where we would have to have it brought up as a motion and then refer it to
Okay.
that. So both of those would have to come in as motions. The option for that, so I was thinking through this, that Silver Creek Poultry Farm then would be to postpone it if we don't have any decisions made to make then, so we would then move to postpone it to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Right.
If we needed to wait on that, or we can just amend the agenda at that point and have it removed.
Or
but
we
it
can just let it die today, and if it needs to be brought back up, we can bring it back.
Right. Well, so if you let it die today, you can't bring up the same specific topic again. Well, actually, it's not been brought up as a motion, so yeah, you're
Yeah,
good.
it's not
Yeah.
before us as a motion.
Yeah, so yeah, we could bring it back up then.
So that's gonna be the easiest way to move forward. Is everybody in agreement of that?
Yep.
That's for the,
So we're not adding it to the June 1st
Correct.
agenda. Thank you.
We're clarifying rules of order.
Thank you.
But we're gonna have it as a discussion item?
No?
No, nothing.
It would have to
As
come
of right
forward.
now, it will have to be reintroduced if we want to talk about it again.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, but that's a technical thing. I mean, does anybody else,
Well, we have to do it. If we have to, we have to.
Gotta
and-
follow the rules.
Yeah, we gotta follow the rules, and when the media calls me, I'm gonna tell them, hey, that's part of the parliamentary rules, and we're gonna do it.
it's not about removing it, it's not a motion here.
Right.
This is a discussion piece. So unless it's brought forward as a motion, it can't go up as business.
So,
And so, or, I
Yeah.
mean, unless we had a discussion area within our agenda to
So we
discuss
need
it in our
to
meeting.
clarify what we're doing with item H, if we're done discussing.
no, one more, please. Email me that rule or text it to me, so when I get a phone call asking, what are we doing, Chairman Jones? I can tell it to them without making any mistakes and getting blasted on Channel 22 News.
I'll
Refer them to the
double check.
parliamentarian.
No, I'm gonna take that.
I'll double
take
check on some portions as far as seeing if it can be, I apologize, Monica, if it can be brought forward, if
Yeah.
there's an area where we can add that on to the next meeting for discussion.
All right, that's good enough for me.
Okay.
So, back to you.
So, were we in agreement to take item H and let it die today after it goes back to the policy, or let it die and then let it go back to policy?
Wait, item H, I thought we said that that's gonna go
We're
on.
sending it back to the policy.
That's what he's
But
saying.
that's-
We have
Yeah,
to
no, a
clarify
motion.
based off what he just said.
So,
Okay,
at
tell us
this,
what to
at
do.
this point, I guess if we just decide not to do anything with it, it would just, it's because it's already in the policy committee already, it would just go back
It
to
would
policy.
continue to
committee.
live in policy until it was brought
Yeah,
back.
right, or we can let it come forward as a motion and then refer it back to the policy committee.
What's the right way to do it?
Either way,
Yeah.
The easiest way without talking about it again for no reason would be to let it go back to policy now, then once it comes back, we can talk about it again. Versus letting it come back, talk about it, and then send it back to policy.
What do you think, Mary?
So whether it's a motion or not, it doesn't matter.
Right, because these are not motions right now, they're just discussion pieces, which is the issues that we're having.
Okay.
But did you guys adopt Robert's rules as your guidelines to operate the cow?
Pretty sure we did.
that's a good question.
When we had the cow before, we did not use Robert's rules.
No.
That's more research.
So we would have to make a motion though, in the,
June 1st.
yep.
Thanks for coming.
There's nothing else.
We'd have to look back at that resolution, or it's the rules of order
Mhm.
on how we drafted that.
Yeah, because I don't remember.
And I think I had asked that question because I don't think it stated we were using Robert's rules, and I asked the question and it was never answered.
Hmm.
Sorry.
So,
We're all learning today, aren't we?
Oh, you're gonna learn today.
And there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah,
that's
that's what
great.
the cow is
That's-
for.
That's what, you know,
So was that, should have been done when we enacted the cow
I
again?
don't have that.
Apparently, yeah, we should have
Well,
adopted, well, we
maybe
don't
not
know.
should
if
have
we-
been done. Was it done or was it not?
We don't know if it was
or
done
at
or
least
not.
discussed.
Yeah,
So we'll have to get clarification on that. So that'll be an agenda item for the next meeting.
So are we treating it like we did, or what are we doing?
We can treat it any way we want, but nobody can clarify it right now, so we should just continue doing what we've been doing. And
Yeah, so basically, unless it's Robert's Rules of
Wild, Wild
Order,
West.
I have nothing to say. This is just, we're here talking. Yeah.
Okay.
and the most efficient way is to let it die here and go back to committee now. That's the most efficient
I agree with
way.
that.
So
Is everybody in agreement or not?
Yeah, as long as we do that, go back to the committee, and then.
Yeah, it's already in their minutes to be on their next
Yeah.
agenda, according to their minutes.
All right, that's it.
And then it can be brought back.
Yes, if voted on,
And voted
With
on
the
and
maj-
recommended by the entire policy,
the
or by a
majority.
majority of the policy committee. Number 19 is board member comments and or announcements.
I
I
ain't
just have
saying
something real
nothing
quick,
more.
about, I'm gonna echo what Matt said about Thursday, the 25th, please, come. It's our commissioner, or courthouse open house, so please come. Everybody come.
Anybody else have anything?
Please donate to Helping Hands and take all of your plastic bags to Helping Hands. They could use them. They're a good organization.
So we need some donations right now.
Just plastic bags, not
I move
items.
we adjourn.
I support that.
Items and
Okay.
plastic bags.
All those in favor for adjournment?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
I wanted to talk to
They will
them.
let you know.
I wanted to talk to them.
Take care of them.
Sorry.
I might be able to catch the last one.